What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn had this once again to say about Deontay Wilder. He says this. He says Deontay Wilder has just vanished from the earth and just doesn't fancy fighting anymore, or his advisors have done the worst contract in boxing history. It's just expired. We're in a global pandemic. You're telling me that you've done a contract that doesn't protect yourself against force BS. And you no longer have a rematch clause because it just expired? I don't believe Wilder's manager, Shelly Finkel, would have done that. But Aram and those guys are goading them, saying goodbye, it's expired. And Shelly is coming out going, I hope we can get that fight. Why aren't you coming out to protect your rights? Say no, you signed the rematch, here's the contract, we're having it, we'll still take it. So what on earth has happened to Deontay Wilder? Are you telling me you don't want to avenge your only defeat? Are you telling me that you don't want to be a king again? You don't want to be the champ? You're going out like that? He may not fight again. If your heart's not in it and you've made the money he's made in the last couple fights, I wouldn't. This is a tough sport. Maybe he doesn't want to be a fighter any longer. Wow. Now, there's some key points I want to counterpunch with what Eddie Hearn said. And I will agree with him with the management, because the management was just terrible. If the contract if the contract has an expiration date on it, that's terrible. That means you didn't even cover your own ass, and that you have to really question your management and who you have managing you. Regardless of how you personally feel about them, you have to really look at that on a professional level and base it off that only, because a lot of people, and I think Deontay has a close relationship with his tight-knit team because they've been around for a long time. Think about it. JD's, Shelly Finkel, Al Heyman. Well, Al Heyman came a little later, but those guys, him and Shelly Finkel, have been around each other. And I think he's grown a relationship with them. And I think that they have, how do you say, similar interests or similar mindsets or similar feelings when it comes to other promoters, especially Eddie Hearn. You know, it's almost like this. If you're good friends with a person that doesn't like another person and they do the same thing, you're more likely going to side with your friend. You know, so it happens all the time, right? You take the side of your friend, therefore you don't like that other person, regardless of what that person's saying or doing. For other fighters, he doesn't like them because he's not supposed to. And that's a sense of loyalty, in a sense, if you look at it in that way. Okay? Now, however, Wilder needs to, first of all, we need to see what happens. We really do need to see if Deontay Wilder speaks. Because if he doesn't, and I know Eddie Hearn is biased because that's a fighter that doesn't particularly like him, neither does his manager. They don't like each other at all. And I think it's a double-edged sword when it comes to Eddie Hearn. I think Eddie Hearn would prefer him to retire, you know, because he brings it up too much. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, I don't think he'll fight anymore. You know, I mean, you don't think he'll fight anymore, or is it that you don't want him to fight anymore? You see what I'm saying? Because for Deontay Wilder to retire right now in his career, with all the things that he's done, with all the potential and all the potential fights that he can face in the future with other fighters, it would be a disservice for him to do that, because guys like Eddie Hearn would be proven to be right, or they can prove their point by saying, hey, he didn't fight the best when he did step up and fight other guys. The opposition raised a bit, he couldn't do it, and then he quit. That's bad. So I want Deontay Wilder to fight. So you know, Eddie Hearn is Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn and Deontay Wilder don't have the best relationship. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they ever met before. But just based on the things that they've said about each other back and forth, this is typical coming from Eddie Hearn. Okay? However, the loyalty bit with Shelly Finkel and people on his team, I don't fully believe. Why? Because Lou DiBella was with Deontay Wilder also, and he had no problems getting rid of him, if you guys can remember. So if he can get rid of Lou DiBella, why couldn't he get rid of Shelly Finkel or JD's? Or just downsize him. Like, look, you can be my manager, but you can't be my trainer. And I don't see why you need a co-manager. That's just stupid. If you got, what the hell is Shelly Finkel for? That's your manager. You don't need two managers. You don't need a half-ass manager and a half-ass trainer. You got a trainer. You just need a real manager that's going to manage you. Right? You have a manager, so get with a real trainer. So I guess, and I hope that that's what they've done. Now, will Deontay Wilder retire? I don't know. But I just hope he doesn't, because people are just going to call him a quitter. And then you have to be careful what you say about other people. You see what I'm saying? Like, if he quits, if Deontay Wilder quits, first of all, it's going to open the gate of 100,000 excuses that have already been created to prolong them. And I'm talking about the Glovegate shit, the crack skull shit, the water bottle, the abuse or whatever, because if Tyson Fury did this, that, and the third, he damaged Deontay Wilder to the point he couldn't retire, he couldn't go on. And then all you have to do is say, well, he went to a doctor, and then the doctor verified all this anyway. So, that type of shit. And you don't want that. You want someone to recover. If he has problems recovering, or he's trying to recover, let him recover and let him come back. But don't quit. Because it makes Wilder look bad also, because Wilder was calling Joshua a quitter. The way he quit. He didn't have a heart like a champion. Well, if you quit right now, Deontay, if you quit right now, people are going to say the same thing about you, but worse. Okay? So all of it's karma anyway, because everything people do, even you, me, anybody else, that we say, you have to be careful what you say about a person, because it can come back and bite you in your ass. And that's exactly what happened to Deontay Wilder. But what he does at this point is most important. Not that he lost. It's a fact of how you come back. If you don't come back at all, and if you just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to call it quits based off the money, then guess what? This article that Eddie Hearn has made or has interviewed in, it makes it true. Right? And you lose credibility as a fighter and your legacy, because you lost. And the first time you lose, you quit, that's not a good sign. That shows you have zero resistance when it comes to this sport. But no, again, I think we still need to wait to Deontay Wilder for him to speak. I don't think it's cool for him to sit back and not say anything. People know where I stand with that. But you guys tell me what you think about Eddie Hearn's statements. Will Deontay Wilder retire? Will he come back to the sport of boxing? You guys tell me what you think. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been counterpunching. Peace.